Welcome everyone. Get yourself comfortable, maybe grab a pillow, settle into your favorite spot, and let's talk about one of the greatest superhero stories ever told. The story of a kid from Queens who got bitten by a spider and became one of the most beloved heroes in the entire world. This is the complete story of Peter Parker, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. We're going to go through everything from the very beginning to the heartbreaking end of his story in the MCU, and we're going to take our time with it. So just relax. Let your mind wander through the streets of New York City, and let's swing into this tale together. Our story begins in Queens, New York. In a modest apartment where a young boy named Peter Parker lives with his Aunt May and Uncle Ben. Now, Peter wasn't always living with his aunt and uncle. He was born to Richard and Mary Parker, but they died when Peter was very young. The circumstances of their deaths were never fully explained to him. Just that there was some kind of accident, and suddenly this little boy had lost both his parents. That's a trauma that would stay with Peter for his entire life, shaping who he would become and why he felt such a desperate need to help people. But he was lucky in one way. He had Aunt May and Uncle Ben. And these two people loved him like he was their own son. They didn't have much money, living paycheck to paycheck in a small Queens apartment, but they had love and they had each other, and for a while that was enough. Peter Parker was special even before the spider bite, and I want to make that clear right from the start. This kid was brilliant. We're talking genius-level intellect. While other kids his age were struggling with basic math, Peter was teaching himself advanced physics and chemistry. He'd spend hours taking apart old computers and radios, figuring out how they worked, and then putting them back together, often making them work better than before. He was naturally curious about everything, always asking questions, always trying to understand the world around him on a deeper level. But being the smart kid came with a price. Peter didn't fit in at school. He was scrawny, awkward, nerdy, and the other kids let him know it. He got bullied regularly, shoved into lockers, called names, all the usual torture that kids inflict on each other when someone's different. Peter had one real friend, a kid named Ned Leeds, who was just as nerdy and just as much of an outcast. And together they'd build Lego sets, talk about Star Wars, and dream about a world where being smart and different was actually cool. Uncle Ben was Peter's rock during these years. Ben Parker wasn't rich, wasn't famous, wasn't anything special by the world's standards. He was just a good man who worked hard, loved his family, and tried to do the right thing every single day. He's the one who taught Peter about responsibility, about standing up for people who couldn't stand up for themselves, about using whatever gifts you had to make the world a little bit better. And there was this one phrase, this one sentence that Ben told Peter that would echo through Peter's entire life, shaping every decision he'd ever make as Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. Remember that. It's going to be important. Actually, it's going to be everything. Now, let's talk about the bite. The spider bite that changed everything. Peter's class took a field trip to Oscorp, this massive scientific corporation that was doing all kinds of cutting-edge research. They were developing new technologies, experimenting with genetics, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. During the tour, Peter wandered off from the group because he was actually interested in the science, unlike most of his classmates who were just goofing off. He was looking at some kind of genetic experiment when a spider that had been exposed to massive amounts of radiation and genetic modification, crawled onto his hand and bit him. Peter felt the sting, shook it off, and thought nothing of it. Just a bug bite, right? Wrong. So very wrong. That night, Peter felt terrible. He was sweating, feverish, his whole body aching, like he had the worst flu of his life. He went to bed early, tossing and turning through fevered dreams, and while he slept, his body was changing at the cellular level. The spider's venom, carrying genetically modified DNA, was rewriting Peter's genetic code, fundamentally altering what he was. When he woke up the next morning, everything was different. The first thing he noticed was that he could see. Peter had worn glasses since he was little, thick, dorky glasses that the other kids made fun of. But now his vision was perfect. Better than perfect, actually. He could see individual dust particles floating in the sunlight. Then he noticed his body. Peter had always been skinny, weak, the kid who got picked last in gym class. But overnight, he'd developed muscle definition. He looked like he'd been working out for months. But the really weird stuff started happening when he tried to get out of bed. He reached for his alarm clock and crushed it in his hand without meaning to. The plastic just shattered under his grip like it was made of paper. Peter freaked out, stumbled backward, and his hand stuck to the wall. Not like tape, but really stuck, like his skin had bonded with the paint. He pulled away and chunks of wall came with him. What the hell was happening? He went to the bathroom to splash water on his face, trying to calm down, trying to make sense of this. And when he looked in the mirror, he barely recognized himself. His face was more defined, his eyes sharper, and there was something else, something he couldn't quite name. He looked dangerous. The next few days were Peter trying to figure out what was happening to his body. He discovered he could stick to any surface, crawling up walls and across ceilings as easily as walking. His strength was insane. He could lift a car without straining. His reflexes were so fast that he could catch a fly between his fingers without thinking about it. And then there was the spider sense, this weird tingling at the base of his skull that warned him about danger before it happened. Someone would throw something at him from behind, and he'd dodge it without even looking. It was like his body knew what was going to happen a split second before it did. Peter was terrified and exhilarated at the same time. He had superpowers. Actual, real superpowers. And he had absolutely no idea what to do with them. At first, Peter thought about using his powers to make his life better. He was a teenager, broke, bullied, struggling. Why not use these abilities to change that? There was an underground wrestling competition offering serious money to anyone who could last 3 minutes in the ring with their champion. Peter made himself a cheap costume, just a red hoodie and a mask to hide his identity, and entered the competition. He called himself the Human Spider, which, okay, not the best name, but he was 15 and excited. The fight was a joke. The big tough wrestler couldn't touch Peter. Every punch was telegraphed by his spider sense. Every grab too slow to catch him. Peter webbed him up. Wait, I haven't mentioned the webs yet. Peter, using his genius brain, actually created web shooters. Mechanical devices he wore on his wrists that could shoot synthetic webbing he'd formulated himself. This kid invented a substance stronger than steel that dissolved after a few hours, and he did it in his bedroom with limited equipment. That's how smart Peter Parker was. So Peter won the fight easily, humiliated the wrestler, and the crowd went crazy. But when he went to collect his money, the promoter cheated him, gave him a fraction of what was promised. Peter was angry. But what could he do? He left the arena fuming, and in the parking lot, he saw someone rob the promoter's office and run past him. The promoter screamed for Peter to stop the thief. Peter had the power to do it easily. Could have webbed the guy up in a second, but he was still mad about being cheated. Why should he help someone who just screwed him over? So Peter let the robber go. He stepped aside and watched the guy run past. Not his problem, right? The promoter called him a coward, asked what kind of person lets criminals get away, and Peter shot back, "Not my problem." Those words would haunt Peter Parker for the rest of his life. Because a few hours later, Peter came home to find police cars outside his apartment building. His heart started racing, his spider sense going crazy, and he ran inside to find Aunt May crying, being comforted by neighbors. Uncle Ben had been shot. He'd been walking home from work, taking a shortcut through an alley, and someone tried to rob him. When Ben resisted, tried to talk the guy down, the robber panicked and pulled the trigger. Ben died in that alley, alone. And the last thing he probably thought about was his family, about May and Peter, and how much he loved them. Peter was destroyed, completely shattered. The one man who'd been a father to him, who'd believed in him, who'd taught him everything important about being a good person, was just gone. Murdered by some random criminal for probably $20. The police said the killer was holed up in an abandoned warehouse by the docks. They had the place surrounded, but the guy was armed and desperate. Peter didn't think, didn't hesitate. He put on his homemade costume, swung across the city on his webs faster than he'd ever moved before, and crashed through the warehouse skylight. The robber shot at him, but Peter's spider sense made him impossible to hit. Peter webbed the gun away, grabbed the guy by the collar, ready to do something violent, something final, and then he pulled off the robber's mask. It was him. The same guy from the arena. The robber Peter had let go. If Peter had stopped him then, if he'd just done the right thing instead of being petty and angry, Uncle Ben would still be alive. This man was able to kill Ben because Peter didn't stop him when he had the chance. Peter's inaction, his choice to not use his power responsibly, had directly led to the death of the most important person in his life. Peter webbed the guy up, left him for the police, and swung away. He sat on a rooftop as the sun came up over New York City, crying behind his mask. And he made a promise, a vow. He would never let his power go to waste again. He would never stand by when he could help. He would use his abilities to protect people, to stop bad things from happening, to make sure no one else lost someone they loved because a hero didn't act. With great power comes great responsibility. Uncle Ben had taught him that. And now Peter finally understood what it meant. It meant that if you could help and you didn't, then the consequences were on you. It meant that power wasn't just about what you could do, it was about what you should do. And so Spider-Man was born. Peter made himself a proper costume, red and blue with a spider symbol on the chest, and he started patrolling Queens. At first, it was small stuff. Stopping bike thieves, helping old ladies cross the street, giving directions to lost tourists, breaking up fights. The neighborhood started noticing this weird spider guy swinging around, and people had mixed reactions. Some thought he was a hero, some thought he was a menace, some thought he was just a publicity stunt. Peter didn't care what they thought. He was doing this for Ben, for May, for everyone who couldn't protect themselves. He started getting better at it, developing a fighting style that used his powers and his brain together. He'd crack jokes while fighting because talking helped him deal with the fear and the adrenaline. Plus, it threw his opponents off balance when this kid in a costume was making fun of them while dodging bullets. Peter's life became this constant balancing act. During the day, he was Peter Parker, high school student, living with Aunt May, who had no idea her nephew was sneaking out every night to fight crime. He had to maintain his grades, which was hard when he was up until 3 a.m. stopping robberies. He had to deal with Flash Thompson bullying him, not knowing that Peter could literally throw him through a wall if he wanted to. He had to navigate having a crush on Liz, this smart, beautiful girl who barely knew he existed. And he had to do all of this while keeping his identity secret, because if anyone found out, if the bad guys he was fighting learned who he really was, Aunt May would be in danger. That was Peter's worst nightmare, losing May the same way he lost Ben. For a while, Peter operated completely under the radar. He was just this local thing, this weird Queens vigilante that occasionally made the news when someone got a shaky cell phone video of him swinging between buildings. But then something huge happened. The Avengers. You know the Avengers, right? Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, all those heroes who saved the world from an alien invasion in New York. Well, they kind of fell apart. There was this big conflict over the Sokovia Accords, basically a law that said superheroes needed to be regulated by the government. Iron Man, aka Tony Stark, thought this was a good idea after all the destruction the Avengers had caused. Captain America thought it was dangerous, that the government would use them wrong or stop them from doing the right thing. It split the Avengers right down the middle, and they needed people to join their sides. That's where Peter came in. Tony Stark, genius billionaire philanthropist, had been tracking Spider-Man's activities. His AI system, Friday, had flagged all these videos of this enhanced individual operating in Queens, and Tony did some digging. Using his insane resources, he figured out that Spider-Man was actually a 15-year-old kid named Peter Parker. So Tony showed up at Peter's apartment in Queens, just knocked on the door like a normal person, which made Peter lose his absolute mind. Tony Stark was at his apartment. Tony Stark knew who he was. This was either the best or worst day of Peter's life. Tony offered Peter a chance. He needed help dealing with Captain America and the rogue Avengers who were opposing the Accords. He'd give Peter an upgraded suit, equipment, support, everything he needed. In return, Peter would come to Germany and help Tony's team. Peter, being a 15-year-old kid who idolized Tony Stark and couldn't believe this was happening, said yes immediately. He didn't fully understand the politics, didn't really grasp what he was getting into. He just knew that Iron Man needed his help, and that was enough. Tony brought Peter to Germany and gave him the new suit. This thing was incredible. It wasn't a homemade costume anymore. This was advanced technology fitted perfectly to Peter's body, with built-in web shooters, hundreds of web combinations, a heads-up display, an AI assistant named Karen, and features Peter would spend months discovering. The suit made him look official, like a real superhero, and Peter was absolutely thrilled. Then he went to the airport and fought the Avengers, like the actual Avengers. He traded punches with Captain America, who complimented his fighting style. He webbed up Falcon, he fought the Winter Soldier, and then Ant-Man grew to giant size, like 50 feet tall, and Peter had to help take him down using tactics from The Empire Strikes Back. It was the most insane day of Peter's life. The fight ended badly, though. People got hurt. War Machine, Tony's best friend, fell from the sky and was partially paralyzed. Captain America and some others became fugitives, and Peter was sent home, pulled out of the fight by Tony before it got too serious. Tony told Peter to keep the suit and to keep doing what he was doing in Queens, but to stay local. No more Avengers-level stuff. Peter was just supposed to be the friendly neighborhood Spiderman. And Peter tried to follow that advice. He really did. But it was hard. He'd gotten a taste of the big leagues, fought alongside Iron Man, and now he was back to stopping ATM robberies. It felt small. This brings us to the Vulture. Adrian Toombs was a working-class guy in New York, ran a salvage company that cleaned up after the big battles the Avengers fought. After the alien invasion, his company got the contract to clean up all the alien technology left behind. It was going to set him up for life, take care of his family, give him some security. But then Tony Stark's company, Damage Control, took over. It was a government contract, all legal and official, and Toombs and his crew were out of a job just like that. Toombs was angry. He'd worked hard his whole life, played by the rules, and the rules screwed him. So he decided to stop playing by the rules. Toombs and his crew had already salvaged a bunch of alien tech before Damage Control kicked them out. Instead of turning it in, they kept it and figured out how to weaponize it. Toombs built himself a flying suit with wings made from alien technology, turning himself into the Vulture. He started selling advanced weapons to criminals, making serious money and justifying it by saying he was just trying to take care of his family. But Peter Parker stumbled onto one of these weapons deals. Some guys were using alien tech weapons to rob an ATM, and when Peter tried to stop them, one of the weapons exploded and nearly killed him and his friend Ned. This was serious. These weren't normal criminals. Peter became obsessed with stopping the Vulture and his crew. He tracked their movements, investigated their operations, and tried to bring them down. But he was still just a kid, still learning, still making mistakes. Tony Stark told him to drop it, to leave it to the real heroes, but Peter couldn't. He felt responsible. If these weapons hurt someone and he could have stopped it, that would be on him. That would be Uncle Ben all over again. So Peter kept pushing, kept investigating, even as his normal life started falling apart. He was ditching school, abandoning his friends, blowing off the academic decathlon team that was going to nationals. Everyone thought Peter was losing it, that he was involved in something bad, but he couldn't tell them the truth. The situation came to a head in Washington, D.C. Peter's school went to nationals for the academic decathlon, and Peter decided at the last minute to go to support his friends and maybe try to have a normal life for once. But he'd hidden one of the alien weapons in his backpack earlier, trying to figure out how it worked. His friend Ned was messing with it during the competition, and the weapon activated, exploding inside the Washington Monument where the team was. The elevator they were in started falling, including Liz, the girl Peter had a crush on. Peter had to race across the city in his Spiderman suit, scale the outside of the Washington Monument, and web up the falling elevator to save his friends. He managed it, barely, and everyone survived. But it was terrifying, and it proved just how dangerous this situation was. Peter finally tracked down the Vulture's next big operation. Toomes was planning to hijack a plane full of equipment being moved from Avengers Tower. This was his big score, the one that would set him up forever. Peter decided he was going to stop it himself, prove to Tony Stark that he was ready for the big leagues. But when he got to his school's homecoming dance to prepare, when Liz's dad answered the door to pick them up for the dance, Peter realized something horrifying. Liz's dad was Adrian Toomes. The Vulture was his crush's father. The car ride to the dance was one of the most tense scenes ever. Toomes slowly figured out that Peter was Spiderman through little clues and slip-ups in conversation. And when he dropped the kids off at the dance, he pulled Peter aside and threatened him. Toomes told Peter to stay out of his way or people would get hurt, people Peter loved. It was a direct threat against Aunt May, against his friends, against everyone Peter cared about. Toomes even said he liked Peter, that he was giving him this one chance because he saved his daughter's life. But if Peter interfered again, Toomes would kill him. Peter had to make a choice. He could go into that dance, be with Liz, try to have the normal teenage life he desperately wanted. Or he could do the right thing, stop the Vulture, and potentially ruin Liz's life by putting her father in prison. It wasn't a fair choice. But Peter had learned from Uncle Ben that with great power comes great responsibility. So he ditched Liz at the dance and went to stop Toomes. The fight was brutal. It wasn't at the airport with the Avengers where he had backup and advanced tech. This was Peter in his homemade suit, the one he'd built himself before Tony gave him the fancy one, fighting a guy in an alien tech flying suit on top of and inside an invisible plane. The plane crashed on Coney Island beach, and Toomes was trapped in the wreckage surrounded by unstable alien technology about to explode. Peter had every reason to leave him there. Toomes had threatened his family, tried to kill him multiple times, and was a criminal, but Peter saved him anyway. He pulled Toomes out of the burning wreckage because that's what heroes do. They save people even when those people don't deserve it. Toomes went to prison. Liz and her family moved away to Oregon to escape the scandal and media attention. Peter lost the girl he liked, but he'd done the right thing. Tony was impressed. He invited Peter to the Avengers compound and offered him official membership in the Avengers. There was even a new suit, the Iron Spider, with mechanical arms and way more advanced tech. This was everything Peter had wanted since Germany. But Peter turned it down. He realized he wasn't ready. He was still learning, still figuring out how to be a hero, and he needed to focus on being the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man before he could be an Avenger. Tony respected that decision and gave Peter back his old advanced suit, the one from Germany. Peter went home happy. He was Spider-Man. He was helping people, and he was starting to figure out who he was. Then he opened his bedroom door and Aunt May was standing there holding his Spider-Man mask. She screamed, "What the F?" And the movie cut to black. May knew. His secret was out to the one person it absolutely couldn't get out to. That was a problem for later, though. Later came sooner than Peter wanted. Because a couple years down the line, something happened that changed everything. The Avengers were dealing with this titan named Thanos, who was collecting these powerful stones called Infinity Stones. Peter was swinging through New York on a school field trip when he saw a giant spaceship appear over the city. His spider sense went crazy. Tony Stark was on that ship fighting aliens trying to kidnap a wizard named Dr. Strange who had one of the Infinity Stones. Peter couldn't just ignore that. He got on the ship to help, and Tony tried to send him home, but Peter stowed away. The ship ended up leaving Earth's atmosphere and heading to space, to a planet called Titan, where Thanos was. On Titan, Peter fought alongside Iron Man, Doctor Strange, and the Guardians of the Galaxy against Thanos. They actually had a plan that almost worked. They managed to restrain Thanos and were trying to remove the Infinity Gauntlet from him when Star-Lord learned that Thanos had killed the woman he loved. In his grief and rage, Star-Lord attacked Thanos, breaking the restraints, and everything fell apart. Thanos defeated all of them. He got all 6 Infinity Stones, and he snapped his fingers. With that snap, Thanos erased half of all life in the universe, just made them disappear, turned them to dust. Peter was one of them. He felt it happening, his spider sense giving him advance warning that something terrible was occurring. He stumbled toward Tony, saying he didn't feel good, that something was wrong. Tony caught him, and Peter kept apologizing. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry." He was scared. This was a kid, just a teenager, and he was dying, and he knew it, and he was terrified. Peter Parker turned to dust in Tony Stark's arms, and Tony had to watch this kid he'd mentored, this kid who was like a son to him, just disappear. It was devastating. Peter was dead for 5 years. From his perspective, it was instant. 1 second he was dying on Titan. The next he was waking up, and Doctor Strange was telling him they needed to go fight. 5 years had passed. The surviving Avengers had figured out time travel and collected the Infinity Stones from different points in history. Bruce Banner used them to bring everyone back. But Thanos from the past found out and came to the present with his entire army. This was it, the final battle. Everyone who'd ever been an Avenger, everyone who'd ever fought for Earth, came through magic portals to fight. Peter came through and immediately found Tony. They hugged, and you could see the relief on Tony's face that Peter was okay. Peter fought in the battle carrying the Infinity Gauntlet, trying to keep it away from Thanos. All the female heroes rallied around him to help. It was epic and terrifying and overwhelming. But ultimately, Tony Stark was the one who ended it. He got the Infinity Stones, snapped his fingers, and erased Thanos and his entire army. But using the stones killed him. The energy was too much for a human body to handle. Peter was one of the first people to reach Tony as he died. He knelt next to him crying, trying to tell Tony they won, that he could rest now, that it was okay, but it wasn't okay. Another father figure in Peter's life was gone. First Uncle Ben, now Tony. Everyone Peter looked up to seemed to die. Tony's funeral was heartbreaking. Peter stood there with all these heroes, this kid who'd gotten pulled into cosmic battles and world-ending threats when he should have been in high school. But he was an Avenger now. Whether he was ready or not, he'd earned that title. A few months after the blip, as they called it, Peter went on a school trip to Europe. He was trying to just be a normal kid again, trying to have fun with his friends and maybe tell MJ, this girl he really liked, how he felt about her. But even in Europe, Peter couldn't escape being Spider-Man. Nick Fury showed up and basically drafted Peter into helping fight these creatures called elementals that were attacking major cities. Peter was introduced to Quentin Beck, a guy from another dimension calling himself Mysterio, who claimed to be fighting these elementals. Peter wanted desperately to believe that Beck could handle this, that Peter could take a break and just be a teenager for a week. So when Fury gave Peter these glasses that Tony Stark had left him, glasses called EDITH, that controlled a massive weapons system, Peter made a huge mistake. He trusted Beck and gave him the glasses. Turned out Beck wasn't from another dimension. He was a former Stark Industries employee who'd been fired for being unstable. The elementals weren't real. They were illusions created by advanced hologram technology. Beck was using drones and holograms to create fake threats so he could pretend to be a hero, and Peter had just given him control of a satellite weapons system. Beck used EDITH to try to kill Peter and his friends. He created an elaborate illusion attack in London, pretending to fight a massive elemental, while actually controlling an army of weaponized drones. Peter had to fight through Beck's illusions, trust his spider sense more than his eyes, and eventually managed to defeat Beck and his crew. But Beck had one final trick. Before he died, he released doctored footage to the media that blamed Spider-Man for the London attack and revealed Peter Parker's secret identity to the entire world. The video played on every screen in Times Square. J. Jonah Jameson, a conspiracy theorist media personality, broadcasted it everywhere. Spider-Man was Peter Parker. Everyone knew. Peter's whole life imploded. He couldn't go anywhere without being recognized. His friends and Aunt May were harassed by reporters and protesters. Some people thought Spider-Man was a hero, some thought he was a murderer, and everyone had an opinion. The anonymity that had protected Peter and the people he loved was gone. Peter tried to deal with it. He really did. But when he, MJ, Ned, and May ended up being investigated and potentially charged because of Spider-Man's actions, Peter got desperate. He went to Dr. Strange and asked him to cast a spell that would make everyone forget Peter Parker was Spider-Man. Strange agreed, maybe a little too quickly, and started casting this incredibly dangerous spell. But Peter kept interrupting, asking Strange to make exceptions. Let MJ remember. Let Ned remember. Let Aunt May remember. Let Happy remember. All these interruptions corrupted the spell, and it started pulling people from other universes into their world. People who knew Peter Parker was Spider-Man in their universes. And that's how we got the multiverse villains. Dr. Octopus from Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 2 showed up and attacked Peter on a highway. Electro from Andrew Garfield's Amazing Spider-Man 2 appeared. The Green Goblin, the Sandman, and the Lizard all came through from their respective universes. These were villains who'd fought Spider-Man before, but not this Spider-Man. They were confused and dangerous, and Doctor Strange wanted to send them all back to their home universes. But Peter learned that sending them back meant sending them back to die. All of these villains died fighting Spider-Man in their original timelines. Peter couldn't accept that. Even though Strange said it was their fate, their destiny, Peter couldn't knowingly send people to their deaths. So he trapped Strange in the mirror dimension, stole the magic box containing the spell, and decided he was going to cure the villains instead. If he could fix what was wrong with them, remove their powers or their insanity, maybe they could go home and not die. It was classic Peter Parker, trying to save everyone, believing that people deserved second chances. With help from MJ and Ned, Peter gathered the villains at Happy's apartment and started working on cures. He managed to fix Dr. Octopus, restoring Otto Octavius's mind and freeing him from his tentacles' influence. But then, the Green Goblin's personality took over Norman Osborn completely. The Goblin didn't want to be cured. He liked being powerful and evil. He attacked, destroying the apartment, and in the chaos, Aunt May was fatally wounded. Peter held May as she died. She told him that with great power must also come great responsibility, finally saying the words that had defined Spider-Man since Uncle Ben. She died telling Peter he had a gift, that he had power, and he had a duty to use it to help people, no matter the cost. Peter's heart broke. May was the last family he had, the last connection to his old life, and now she was gone too. Everyone Peter loved seemed to die because of Spider-Man. He wanted to kill the Green Goblin. He was consumed with rage and grief. But then something amazing happened. 2 other Spider-Men appeared. Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's versions of Peter Parker from their respective universes had been pulled through along with the villains. Ned had accidentally used Strange's sling ring to summon them while looking for Peter. These older Peters had been through similar losses and similar rage. Tobey's Peter had almost killed the man who murdered Uncle Ben. Andrew's Peter had let his anger consume him after Gwen Stacy died. They understood exactly what this young Peter was feeling, and they were there to help him through it. The 3 Spider-Men worked together to cure the remaining villains and prepare for the final fight. They set up at the Statue of Liberty and lured the villains there. Strange had managed to escape the mirror dimension and was trying to complete the spell to send everyone home, but he needed time. The 3 Peters fought together, covering each other's weaknesses, working as a team in a way that was both hilarious and heartwarming. At one point, they were all just pointing at each other going, "You're Spider-Man! No, you're Spider-Man!" During the battle, MJ fell from the scaffolding of the statue. Peter, Tom Holland's Peter, dove to save her, but couldn't reach her in time. Andrew Garfield's Peter swung in and caught her at the last second. He held her, crying, because this was his chance to save someone he couldn't save in his own universe. He'd failed to catch Gwen Stacy, and she died. But he saved MJ, and you could see the weight lift off him. The 3 Peters managed to cure all the villains. Even the Green Goblin was restored to being just Norman Osborn, confused and remorseful. But the spell was breaking apart. The boundaries between universes were collapsing. Doctor Strange said the only way to stop it was to make everyone in every universe forget that Peter Parker existed, not just forget he was Spider-Man. Forget Peter entirely. No more Spider-Parker connections, no memories of him at all. He'd be completely erased from everyone's life. Peter realized this was the only way. If people didn't know about Peter Parker, they couldn't be pulled through from other universes. The spell would work. The multiverse would be safe. But MJ and Ned wouldn't remember him. May's sacrifice would be forgotten. Every relationship Peter had built, every connection he'd made, would be gone. He'd be utterly alone. And Peter, because he's Peter Parker and he's a hero, accepted it. He told Strange to cast the spell. Before the spell completed, Peter said goodbye to MJ and Ned. He promised he'd find them after and explain everything. MJ made him promise. They told each other, "I love you," for the first time, as they forgot who he was mid-sentence. Then they were gone. The other Peters returned to their universes. the villains went home, hopefully to better fates, and reality reset. Peter Parker woke up in a shabby apartment, alone. No one knew who he was. He went to the coffee shop where MJ worked, planning to reintroduce himself, to remind her of everything they'd been through. But when he got there and saw her with a bandage on her head from the battle she didn't remember, when he saw her laughing with Ned, both of them safe and happy and not burdened by knowing Spider-Man, Peter couldn't do it. He realized they were better off without him. Everyone he loved got hurt. May died. Tony died. Uncle Ben died. Maybe the universe was telling him that Peter Parker was the problem. Spider-Man had to be alone. So Peter ordered a coffee, left without saying anything, and walked away. He sewed himself a new suit in his tiny apartment, a suit that was fully his own design, combining elements from all the previous suits. He put on the classic Spider-Man costume and swung out into New York City. No tech, no Tony Stark upgrades, no one in his ear helping him, just Peter Parker, the kid from Queens, being your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. The final shot was Spider-Man swinging through a snowy New York, completely alone but still protecting people. He'd lost everything. His family, his friends, his love, his identity, his connections to the Avengers and the larger superhero world. He was just a guy in a costume helping people because it was the right thing to do. No recognition, no thanks, no one even knowing his name. But he kept going, because that's what heroes do. And that's the story of Spider-Man. A kid who got superpowers and learned the hardest way possible that with great power comes great responsibility. He lost his Uncle Ben and learned that inaction has consequences. He lost Tony Stark and learned about sacrifice. He lost Aunt May and learned that being a hero means doing what's right, even when it costs you everything. And in the end, he gave up his entire identity, every relationship he'd ever had, to save the multiverse. He's not a billionaire in a suit of armor. He's not a super soldier or a god. He's just a kid from Queens with spider powers and a huge heart who refuses to stop helping people no matter how much it hurts him. The beautiful tragedy of Spider-Man is that he never gets a happy ending. He's always losing someone, always sacrificing something, always choosing to help others at his own expense. But he keeps going. He keeps swinging through the city, stopping robberies, helping people, being a hero. Because someone has to, because he has the power to make a difference. Because with great power comes great responsibility. Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And even though the world forgot Peter Parker, Spider-Man will never stop protecting them. That's the promise he made over Uncle Ben's grave. That's the lesson Tony taught him. That's what May believed in him for. And that's why, despite everything, despite all the loss and pain and loneliness, Peter Parker will always be a hero. So, as you drift off to sleep tonight, remember the kid from Queens who lost everything and kept being a hero anyway. Remember that heroism isn't about having powers or wearing a fancy suit. It's about making the choice to help people even when it's hard, even when it costs you, even when no one will remember you for it. That's what makes Spider-Man special. That's what makes Peter Parker one of the greatest heroes ever created. Sweet dreams, everyone. And remember, with great power comes great responsibility.